Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the first morning of the conference. I think we had some very interesting presentations. The first session giving us an overview of what is happening in China from a logistics and an automotive market perspective. The second session particularly focused maybe on the international linking China to the rest of the world, with maybe a special focus on the Silk Road and the One Belt. This session will be looking more at the automation, innovation, and globalization. We're looking at how automotive logistics is changing and bringing more technology into logistics. I was very pleased on my last visit into China to hear how much advancement has been made in the logistics industry. Even hearing some car makers telling me of how they believe some of their Chinese logistics providers are amongst the best from a technology point of view, even more advanced than some of their supposedly more global competitors. So it's good to see that Chinese automotive logistics is developing in this way. So what we've put together in this session is one major car maker, one of the most important car makers in China, to give their perspective. And then we've got some logistics and technology service providers to hear what advancements, what developments are being made from technology and IT from their side. So I think it'll be an interesting session on how Chinese automotive logistics is developing. I'd like to welcome to the podium the first speaker of this afternoon, a good friend of ours, someone who you would have seen at some of our conferences before, Mr. Guangqing, the Managing Director for Logistics and Engineering Ops at SAIC General Motors. Mr. Xu.
各位先生、各位女士，大家下午好。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's the afternoon time, especially after the delicious lunch. You all feel a little sleepy. I do hope my presentations will not be that boring. I realize the screen is pretty small. Maybe the audience at the back of the room cannot see the PPT very clearly, so I'd love to have you all sit at the front of the conference room. So the topic of my presentation is the road to transition, the auto logistics in industry version 4.0. Oh, probably some technical issues. I don't know how to change pages. Right, my presentation is comprised of 3 parts. Firstly, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the status quo of the automation technology in OEM, and also I would like to tell you the application of some new technologies in OEM. And last but not least, I will touch a little bit behind the introduction of digital technology. Industry 4.0, including Made in China 2025, is a pretty popular topic in China. If you're a history student, you heard about 3 industrial revolutions in human history. Probably Industry 4.0 is the 4th industrial revolution. Whether it is the 4th industrial revolution, it's up to historians to discuss. Well, indeed, the Industry 4.0 is led by Germany and United States. Of course, China has its own version that is Made in China 2025. The e-commerce companies are taking big strides in Industry 4.0, pharmaceutical companies and other medical industries are catching up. It is a time of both challenges and opportunities. Why automation technology is a must for auto logistics? Because of the following three reasons. First one is cost. GM China, headquartered in Shanghai, the labor cost is pretty high. When the cost is mounting, we're thinking about the application of robots. Well, actually, the operational cost of a robot is a lot less than the labor cost of a human being. And sometimes during Spring Festival, you cannot find anyone to work for you. And during holiday and vacations, our human employees, refuse to work extra hours. For all the OEMs in China, the workers work in 3 shifts, so the working intensity is pretty high. During night time, unfortunately, some quality issues will happen.
大家可以看一下，目前我们的国内的一些主要的 OEM。
So let's take a look at the current status for the domestic automotive logistics automation for OEMs. Currently, we are still focusing very much on the reception, storage, feeding, and offline. For US system, German cars and Japanese cars manufacturers, they are well ahead of the rest of the other countries and the regions. But for China, we are still lagging far behind. The second part of my speech is application of new technologies of automation. So according to my understanding, many domestic players have conducted some researches into this area, and some of the technologies have been put into operation. For example, for the future, we have the visibility for inbound, automatic reception, storage, picking, feeding, and shipping, and so on and so forth. We have talked a lot about TMS visible systems for the first part, which only rests with the reception of data. Of course, for the optimization of the routes, still a lot needs to be done. For second, reception, automatic receiving and picking. This is far from complete. These are some of the logos of the companies that have been using the conveyors technology, automatic forklift, and automatic sequencing by the robots. Automatic storage. Yes, indeed, for the PT bulk storage area, it has been in application for many years in many companies using the bulk AS or RS. And also, we see here we have the press gauge areas or the cell storage areas. And we have talked a lot about the movable units. In the small lot storage areas, we are talking a lot about how to make use of those three-dimensional small particles for the pickings and storages. For feeding and offline, we have been using small lot AGCs, replenishment technologies. So in this area, I think the domestic Nissan company is the leader. And SAIC Volkswagen has learned a lot from Nissan. Automatic shipping. So far, we have only used the RFID technology for the finished vehicle storage or the inventory. For RFID technology application in vehicle shipping, more needs to be done. In addition to the above-mentioned technologies, some other technologies are really matured, but due to the price ceiling or the price factor, they're still very expensive. So we are working on how to apply those technologies on a cost-efficient manner. including the combined shuttle ASRS systems, the four-directional shuttle system, and a stacker system. The AGC is a technology that has been with us for long, but still we are working on its cost reduction. For per unit of AGC machine, probably the cost is much higher, even equivalent to a BMW car. And also, we have the rotary warehousing systems, automatic plant technologies, intelligent AGC, and intelligent wearing systems will embrace a new period of growth in the next 3 to 5 years. So especially for the wearables for intelligent purposes, this will be very efficient to enhance the application of those technologies in more areas to facilitate our current operation. Apart from those automatic machines and the technologies, we are facing some problems indeed. With the application of AGCs, we are thinking as to how to better improve the utilization rate of those AGCs. If you take a look at new plant, it reminds me of the earlier session where we have also talked a lot about that issue. Indeed, if you pay a visit to the factories, especially those newly launched factories, you can see a lot of wires or those cables in high density on the ground. They are all AGC systems, but they constitute low efficient use of the ground areas. So how to make a better use of those AGCs is another big problem that we have to handle. Secondly, as I said, the wearables, intelligent wearables, how to ensure new breakthroughs upon that platform so that it can be extensively applied across the board in the auto logistics sector. At least it can replace the original scanning technology because, you know, scanning really takes a lot of human power and other efforts. So if you have those wearables, I think it can at least replace the current traditional scanning technology, which can also help to enhance our working efficiency. We also mentioned a lot about the Internet of Things. For the industrialization version 4, a lot has been talked about the Internet of Things. In other words, so many automatic devices have been used, but how to use the Internet of Things to connect all different type of machines, tools, and devices to form a data alliance. So that will help us to better understand and analyze the big data. Okay, so that brings us to the digitization of automotive logistics, the third part. You know, this is the brief chart showing you the development of intelligent plants in the future, starting from standardization to modularization up until automation and digitization as we are currently belong to. We are still at a fledgling stage for the digitalization, and not all the OEMs have benefited from the informatization and digitalization. So in the future, we still need to do more to solve those problems. With intelligent application of technology as the ultimate goal. So for digital research of logistics, this is a busy chart, but I want to tell you that currently we have already seen the areas in which it is applied. For example, the OCR decipherability of the words, the mobile terminals, the RFID barcodes. So no bottleneck issue whatsoever in this regard. But in terms of the Internet of Things application and the transmission of technology and the data, so how to find the optimal arithmetic or logics is still another big issue. At least, from my perspective, I haven't detected the successful application of any new software or model. Still, our exploration is still going on. So if we can do a better job at that area, It will do a lot for our future automatic storage decision making and production planning and prediction, together with automatic routing and the risk control. In other words, it will help a lot to ensure well-informed, intelligent decision-making process. For SAIC GM, we are working actively on how to put human power, machines, material resources, big data, and digitization into a big pool, so that it can form a so-called big data management system and a digitalization-based plant. And also, based upon the new plant and the new car models and new technologies application, we need to open the research areas for digital simulation. So that basically concludes my brief introduction. Next time, probably I will bring you another presentation on how does logistics industry can transfer from automation to digitalization, including the big data system development and building, combination of intelligent technology and a big data system, and also the intelligent decision based on big data and analysis. I'm looking forward to any of the comments that you may have upon my presentation, and also I'm looking forward to more offline talks during the tea break.
Thank you very much, Mr. Xu. A great presentation to start off this session, and the video brought it all to life as well. There's an exciting future in manufacturing and logistics in our industry, so it's great to see. Thank you very much, Mr. Xu. Next up to hear from a logistics company, one of the leading logistics companies in China, to hear what they're doing to develop their technology and to develop automotive logistics in China. I'd like to welcome Mr. XiaoQing, the Deputy Manager from Kingfour Marine. Thank you, Mr. Ge.
各位嘉宾，各位朋友 Dear guests, dear friends, and also dear experts in this industry, good afternoon. It is my great delight and a pleasure to be given this opportunity to attend this Automotive Logistics Conference on behalf of the industrial players in China, addressing the issue of the current innovation of the water transportation of finished vehicles and internationalization. The general economic background is undertaking substantial changes, and also with the implementation of some new regulations. Inevitably, these policies and measures will deliver some impacts upon the road transportation, generating new mindset for the water transportation for cars and finished vehicles. Okay, 4 parts in my speech. First of all, a brief recap of the status currently. Secondly, how to be innovative in our services. Thirdly, which is about the future based upon the international integration. Fourthly, for CDC and for KFM, what type of feature services we have. This is a brief introduction of the status quo here. By 2015, the total volume of car output And the sales volume is nearly about 25 million sets. That's #1 in the world for 7 consecutive years, also reaching historical high. And we have a brief forecast for the future of a slight increase over the current volume in the next few years. And also we have formed 6 main clusters of automotive industry, for example, the Yangtze River Delta area, the Pearl River Delta area, the northeastern part of China, the Pacific, the Pan-Bohai Rim area, the central area, and also the southwestern part of China. The Road Transportation Vehicle Technology Management Regulation has also been promulgated since January this year, and it will be kicked off into its operation since March the 1st this year, in which it has specified that the size and the spec of the vehicles in the future should be in agreement with the relevant regulations of GB 1589. And also, for the past 10 years, generally speaking, the coastal finished vehicle ro-ro water volume of transportation is increasing rapidly. But according to our analysis and the statistics, by the end of last year, the total shipment by sea using ro-ro is about 1.5 million. But in the next 5 years, the ro-ro fleet is facing an aging problem. Currently, we have around 25 ships, in which 13 ships are already aging between 25 to 32. So the average ship age is pretty old. Currently, along the coastal areas in China, we have formed some service pattern called T pattern. The horizontal stroke is along the Yangtze River line, and the vertical one is along the coast, which forms the letter T. So the lines are basically quite fixed, including the southwest line and also the Yangtze River line, calling the ports along the river and also along the coast. For most of the lines along these two routes, we can form the frequency of about twice or 3 times a week to provide a high-frequency ro-ro liner services. But unlike the containerized way of transportation, the ro-ro fleet frequency cannot be well based upon a well-predicted pattern, and it cannot be expected to delivered on exactly or absolutely frequent or regular basis. And also, currently there is still a serious lack of connective services between our river-based services and also the services that should be calling ports of other countries and using different other models. So facing this strong need in the market, how to meet the rising demand, we have a couple of things already under our consideration. These are purely based upon our current discussion. As I said, in the future, there can be only one transshipment along the connective point of the two lines. But one thing you have to pay more attention to is the extra time for loading and uploading. But do we have any other better plan which can, on one hand, reduce the time consumption but also enhance the working efficiency? I think it's possible. We can fulfill the once-off multimodal way of transportation from the northeastern part of China to the central part of China. But for the eastern part of China, the annual throughput for the car handling or for the shipment handling is already much higher than the designed capacity. So in the future, we still have a plan to further enhance the frequency and also to better excavate the potential of this type of services. So our current plan is to devise some very special types of ships which can help hopefully meet the need of the loading and uploading of ships. So long as you can break away from the bottleneck issue of the Nanjing Yangtze River Bridge, because the height limit is about 24 meters. So this will be one of the constraining factor. So long as we can be done away with this constraint, then nothing can be unachievable.
Secondly, let's talk a little bit about the Three Gorges shipment route. Along the Yangtze River, with a shipment service from Chongqing to Wuhan. And at the same time, we also have a route from Chongqing to Wuhan to Wuhu and then to Shanghai that covers the entirety of the Yangtze River. So we're not thinking about shipping the vehicles from northeast China to southeast China. We can have one transshipment of these vehicles at Three Gorges Dam area. Meaning we don't have to drive the trucks or turn the ships into Chongqing or Sichuan for very difficult road transportations for transshipment. So this is what we called the road-water multimodal transportation. On one hand, it reduces the time to transport the vehicles into Sichuan province. At the same time, we can reduce the cost of the logistics. If we wanted to connect the river transportation with sea transportation as well as with the road transportation, we need to design the specialty ships. From shipment point of view, northeast China registered a huge number of vehicle shipment. In the whole of China, and if we start to transport the vehicles from northeast China, it considerably reduced mileage on road transportation. So we need to design the specialty ships, or the ships that fit in the certain standards. We're now in the manufacturing of a transportation ship that can hold up to 2,100 vehicles. And we're going to deliver that ship this year. Currently, the river transportation is realized through what we call the hoist machine, when we need to go from a high altitude to the low altitude sections or vice versa. We need to wait for 1.5 days. So we're thinking about building what we call the hoist machine. A ship can drive into this hoist machine directly, and it will take only 40 minutes to hoist the ships to a certain level so that it can drive to a new section of the river very quickly. It's a lot of it saves a lot of time. Through a hoist machine, we can improve the operating efficiency by 25%. So certainly we need to build a very special hoist machine for that specialty ship. This is what we call the Kingfour ship. It can accommodate containers. It also can accommodate ro-ro cargoes. So it fits to different types of cargo. It's suitable for containers as well as the ro-ro. So it's a kind of comprehensive ships. We've already developed new technologies to use the container rackets to accommodate vehicles. Probably in the future we can design some small-sized container and ro-ro ships. Well, in China, the ro-ro market is quite a disintegrated market. As we put the new types of ro-ro ships into operation, probably in the future, the Series 2000 ro-ro ships can only accommodate sedan cars. It cannot load trucks or limousines or other big types of vehicles. But the ships we're about to deliver have the ability to load not only the sedan cars but also other types of vehicles. For the large-sized cargoes, the international liners love to call the big ports at coastal areas in China. The international liners are not willing to call the small ports. We need transshipment to turn these big-sized cargoes into the final destination. It's very costly. So in the future, when we launch the domestic trade ro-ro ships, we can provide the seamless integrations between the international liners and a domestic liner. Well, of course, not only. I think there can be a lot of sharing of experience between the Chinese ship owners and our international ship owners. A little bit introduction of our company. My company was founded in 2011 with a total registered capital of $1.1 billion. It has 4 subsidiaries covering 6 business lines to provide a holistic logistics service. The Kingfour shipping company is specialized in ro-ro company. The left picture shows the ships that is already put in operation, and the right one is the ship or the vessel we are about to deliver. In the mid of this year, we're going to start to build 2 river ro-ro ships, which will be delivered September next year. So the accommodation capacity of our fleet is 9,000 vehicles. So for every year, we can transport approximately 450,000 vehicles. In the long run, we're going to have 8 sea-going ships and 6 river-going ships. The annual transportation capacity exceeds 1 million. This is the difference between the ro-ro ships we're about to deliver and the existing ro-ro ships. So if in the future we need to load or transship the cargo with a height up to 3 meters, we can provide the most economic weight for transshipment. There's no need to hoist the middle decker. For the existing fleet, if they are to accommodate the cargoes with a height higher than 2.7 meters, we have to make some changes to the deckers. But in the future, we can deliver special ships to accommodate extra height cargoes. The mast is foldable, so we can sail this ship from Shanghai to the upper reaches of the Yangtze River. And this ro-ro ship will be delivered in July this year. Because of the challenges and opportunities brought about by new policies, the KFM as well as CDC are willing to work with our partners to improve the overall quality of the automobile logistic industry. Thank you very much.
For sharing some new ideas in innovation and new technology in a different way, for this time for ro-ro shipping. Next up, we'll hear a little bit more from perhaps more of an IT technology perspective. I'd like to welcome to the podium Ruud Vossenbelt, Director of Business Development for Inform. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louis. Thanks for being invited to talk about technology and what we as Inform do in that area, and also how it might help maybe the Chinese automotive logistic industry. Maybe not everyone knows Inform. We are a company from Germany, from Aachen. One time we were established as a subdivision of the University of Aachen, and a professor specialized in mathematics, operation research, statistics. He established the company, and these days we found a number of places in the market where these technologies are very interesting, and one of the business areas is the automotive industry. And our focus is very much real-time optimization technology, which comes very close to Industry 4.0 or Internet of Things that people talk about these days. Many companies in the industry, they think about logistics, they have tools, they have trucks. There is another area, and that comes from universities, that's mathematics. And what we do as Inform, we try to combine these two worlds. And by combining these two worlds, we see many times that there is a potential of maybe 10–20% improvement that you can make in efficiency. I want to give you a few examples in what areas we think there is something to win. In the meantime, we got a lot of customers around the world, and we help these customers to realize these efficiencies. One customer from us is, for example, FedEx. You can imagine they have a lot of planes coming in early in the night, a lot of planes leave late in the night, 250 planes every night, and 17 million parcels need to go during that night. And we help to make sure that all these movements on the airport can be done on time and that the planes are not delayed in leaving. Yeah, you really need to do the planning on the minute and make sure everything happens on time. And that's the sort of job we are doing. Another area is a very large container terminal in Hamburg. They are based on an island, and their big challenge is what to do when the ships get bigger and bigger. They cannot grow anymore, there is not additional space. And they asked us, what can we do to find the next 20% efficiency? And we helped them to find a number of areas where they could add optimization, and that way they could process additional 20% volume in their container terminal. From the container terminals, we moved also in the finished vehicle logistic area. And these days we are providing the system to the largest car terminal in the world, from ICO in Zeebrugge in Belgium. They have 2 square kilometer area where they have 70,000 cars parked. And what you need to make sure is which car do you park on which spot? Yeah, and that's what we do with our solution. And how can you do that with a minimum of people running around to get the cars on the right spot? Also, we have a lot of activities in the inbound logistic area in automotive. We have partnership with Volkswagen, with BMW, with Audi and Mercedes. And we manage that 12,000 trucks a day move into more than 50 factories in Europe. And all these trucks need to come in the right time, at the right slot, and they get, let's say, a 10-minute time window to make sure there is no traffic jam coming up in front of the factories. And we make sure that all these trucks are processed in a streamlined way. So the question is, where can automation, innovation, technology add value? And I like to give you a few examples where we see that there is a big potential. So the theme these days is very much big data. What can you do with that? Internet of Things is another theme. Another interesting area what's going on is a group talking about physical internet. I'd like to talk a little bit about that. And we see there is innovation coming from trailers, containers, and racks. So, and the big challenge is how to make it work all together. So, starting about, let's say, areas in logistics which are really important to try to improve further. When you look to inventories, that's a bit important logistic area. The challenge is for everyone how to reduce inventories with the next 20%. Transport costs, how to find the additional transport cost as well. And it's not only the cost of driving a truck, but it's also reducing the waiting time of trucks, reduce the empty driving. But there is also a lot of trucks who are half full. How can you also reduce that? And how can you reduce the total lead time when you think about the total logistic process? So big data, when we talk, for example, about a company like Bosch, which is a customer of us, they have a lot of automotive spare parts all over the world. So what can you do to improve that situation, and how can you get control? And the sort of system we provide to them is this sort of system. It looks very complex, but in fact it's easier to use than a typical ERP system. And it helps these companies to find better service levels and much lower inventories. And this company already had more than 90% service level, and they want to make sure it would still have a very high availability. And still, this sort of solutions can help to find the next 20% inventory reduction by putting it on existing IT systems. So that's the first example for big data. Another area is transport costs. How can you use big data to reduce transport costs there? We work with companies like Toyota, Ford, and they have a lot of flows going around on continents like US or China. And if you look to that, it's very hard to make something out of it and to see where is my potential. But by looking in the right way to the problem and to the data, you find that there is a way to look to better distribution center locations or to use more rail and less road. And typically, these sort of studies bring also an additional 5 or 10% cost savings. I heard yesterday a discussion about China that you go to trailers who are shorter than that they are today. And I think there's a big discussion about, do you still need then trucks to try to do the car transport, or could you maybe move to rail or ship? Now, that sort of studies we can work out with this sort of tools, because it's a lot of data crunching. It's very difficult to do it by Excel alone. And so we will move a lot of data through this sort of models, and we consider the different transport means. We look to the emissions, we look to the rates, but also, for example, how much damage is happening by a car transporter when it's gone by road or when it goes by rail. And all these factors together can make a conclusion. What's the best way to organize your total network? So typically what happens is you need to have a few exercises. It's sort of optimization and simulation, and step by step and day by day you can come to the next optimization. And what's interesting, this sort of tools help you every day to find the additional, let's say, 1% improvement, because you learn very quick what you can do with all the big data that you have. And every time you ask the system, okay, I want to see a different scenario. What if we do it now all by rail and not by road? Or I want to have only one distribution center and not 5 distribution centers. Yeah, and that gives a lot of quick decision making for companies. Another area of interest these days is how to reduce empty driving. Many companies always look to route optimization from, let's say, factory to dealer. But the big area they always have forgotten is the area what happens with the truck when it goes back. And we have learned that there is 20 to 40% empty driving in trucks, in trains, in ships. And the big challenge is how to solve that problem. Because when people talk about climate change, CO2 reduction, that's a big area where still something can be improved. So what we do now is we collect all the data and we balance the flows, not only for internal companies, but also between companies. And there are companies like Procter & Gamble and Samsung, they have a lot of interest to see is there free space in automotive that they can share as well, because they like also to make improvements in empty driving. So these studies are now made, and we invite other companies as well to join, because maybe also in China there is a lot of empty driving and there is a lot to win in that area. Talking about Internet of Things, then we talk really about the details and what has changed in the last years. We see a big change is that companies now can use smartphone, which means they have a continuous link with a central system, and there is a sensor in place all the time to understand where someone is. Or it can be a handheld that you use. So that's how our system is organized. Communicate via app, smartphone, or via handheld. Also what we see is that output is moving from a paper document that's printed once a day to do all the activities in the yard, for example, to a smartphone where every minute you get the optimized instructions what to do. The planning, it's not a daily process anymore, it's a minute process, because things change on the day. And accuracy, when you think about big yards in a factory or at a car distribution center, people do not talk about the big block anymore where they park the car. No, they talk really about the real parking space where you should get the car to. And what we see more and more processes are self-serviced. Should you still be handled by people at the gate, or can you use a sort of e-gate process? So what we see in, for example, the factory itself, that there is a way to organize the movements of forklifts or also from AGVs by having instructions on the minute and make sure that every minute the right thing is done by the forklift. This is an example of Audi. We give almost 200,000 instructions a day, and there is a limited space in the factory, and all these parts need to be there on time. And they only have 30 minutes time for inventory. So it's really Internet of Things that's happening there. A lot of movements go around, and that all need to be coordinated. So in the vehicle distribution center, and here we have the example of Zeebrugge, the largest car terminal in the world, how to organize that then. So what we do is we make sure that every car goes to the right spot in such an area, and we keep it optimized. We look to the mathematics around it, what's the optimal place for such a car. Here we see that the persons get instructions by a handheld, and this person is going around with the handheld in the car almost all the time that he's busy. He's not waiting, he every time is working on the next car, and we have created the right loops to make sure that there is no inefficiency in that process. This is an example as well for the vehicle distribution center. This is in Zeebrugge. They have now examples that trucks can go in without that people are needed to let them in. Yeah, so there is an automatic gate, and they can quickly go to the gate, are processed in their own language. It's like on an airport, and in that way they can win a lot of time. We see there is a 50% reduction in waiting time for the drivers when they get into the vehicle distribution centers. Another area is geofencing. We got requests from Audi to see how could they improve the process to get trucks in a more streamlined way in the factories. They have a big network. They think about airports. How are airports working with the planes, getting them on the right moment in the airport? And they like to follow a similar sort of idea. So what we do for Audi and for Volkswagen now is they first do a scan of the documents when they leave the suppliers. Then we have a slotting system so that they get all the time window when they should arrive. But then we also follow the trucks to the factory and make sure there is a fit between their time slots and that they arrive. And if they are too late, we can inform the people in the factory already that this truck is 1 hour too late. And when it arrives when the truck is 10 minutes before the factory, the person at the dock knows, hey, in 10 minutes my truck will come in. So that he is immediately ready to do the loading and unloading of the truck, and the truck is not losing any time. We have seen that that step alone gave 30 minutes profit by truck in processing them quicker. The slotting helped to move from 3 hours to 2 hours, the quick check-in from 2 hours to 1.5 hours. So you see, you can reduce waiting time with 50% for trucks if you use some intelligent technology. And this was a great initiative. Audi presented this and they won the innovation prize in Volkswagen. And everyone in Volkswagen says, hey, 30 minutes profit by truck, 600 trucks a day, that's a big business case. So this is the biggest showcase in Germany for Industry 4.0, how trucks can go very quick through the factory area. Another area what is very interesting for you maybe to consider is look outside automotive. There are initiatives going on outside automotive. And we learned about the Digital Internet Initiative. And what they say, 20 years ago, Internet started up. And it's based on, let's say, computers and connecting everything. Why can we not do some similar thing for logistics? Make sure we connect everything and we optimize everything. And now you see that companies like Boeing, like Procter & Gamble, HP, they really want to help the world to reduce the empty driving. They see that 40% is only utilized of the trucks. So there's still 60% to win. And there is a lot of empty travel. And what we have learned as well, they have so much interest in the automotive industry, how they can cooperate with the automotive industry to find together ways to reduce all this waste in the supply chain. I think if you have interest in this initiative or some of the earlier things, let's discuss it later. Besides the IT, there are some interesting developments in hardware. We see in the finished vehicle logistics these days there are possibilities to carry full trucks with cars to dealers, but also take maybe containers or boxes back to the factory again. Also, there are possibilities to have foldable containers, which means you don't need to carry 5 empty containers back, but you can put them all on one truck. So you only need to have 1 back transport and not 5 back transports. And another thing is there are many full trucks, but these days there are racks, and the racks itself can help to fill the container or the container or the truck to the top. And also, especially for the stackable goods, this is a very interesting initiative. So as a summary, I think there is a lot going on in big data, Internet of Things, but also the collaboration between companies can bring a lot. And there are a lot of new tools. So the big challenge for the logistic people is how can we bring it all together and solve this puzzle and make sure this brings us further in supply chain optimization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruud, for informing us about some of the more information technology solutions that are out there, including award-winning solutions, particularly in Germany in this particular instance. And also, as we kind of touched upon in the previous presentation from Kingfour Marine, that new ideas, innovations could be hardware as well as software. And next up, to hear from a new company for us, some more IT kind of technology solutions, I'd like to welcome to the podium Feng Hanping, the Chief Technology Officer from Careland. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Feng Hanping from Careland. So our company is a leader at navigation system and also car-loaded maps, and we have done a lot in terms of the products and also services. We also collect our own map services and map data. So we have not only the all-coverage popular map products, but also the special maps tailor-made for the logistic sector, including the first cargo transportation map. In the past, I used to be involved in the mapping industry in Google, but this year I joined Careland. So I want to say a few words about the possible pathway in the new era. So what does that so-called possible pathway mean? In the Internet of Cars, many people have been talking about future technologies and the future business models, but these future models cannot solve the current problem. But Careland is a practical company. We care more about what is around all of us, including what Mr. Cai has mentioned early this morning, like reduction of cost, enhancing efficiency, and improving our capabilities. So how to further ensure the application of technology for management and also for the optimization of different processes. And this is exactly what we care more. Reality is the ladders leading towards the future. So we are interested in how to take a closer look at the current technologies, products, and the service conditions as the basis before we can identify the most pressing problems facing the current logistics sector. And also we want to identify the advantages of the automotive sector and also the logistics industries before we find a way out. So MAP Plus is the mindset we traditionally embrace to find a new pathway for the logistic industry. To be more specific, through the navigation industry, we want to identify the most optimal route for cars. For example, the cargo freighters may take a different route than the passenger cars, and also trucks may take a route which is also different from the previous two. We want to employ different data and figures to accommodate different needs for trucks, for passenger cars, and for different other vehicles. And also for MAP Plus mindset, we want to devise more modalities, including MAP Plus logistics and MAP Plus more. So I think that logistic company and OEM may care different things. For example, for OEMs, they care more about the acquisition of data to improve the products and also how to get integrated into the Internet of Cars for delivering the information services. But for logistic company, they are more interested in reducing transportation cost and enhancing work efficiency. So that brings me to the so-called reality of the Internet of Cars of the logistics sector. For the commercial net of cars, it's the focal point of the logistics sector. Apparently, it's key for the efficiency increase and also for the cost reduction. In the whole industrial chain, different subject matters and different sectors and the main bodies may have different roles to play, forming a different smiling curve along the line. I think that currently the satisfaction rate of all these links along the line is really high. So I think that probably they can belong to two main categories. One is logistics service camp, the other is OEM camp. In the past, the cargo transportation market has undertaken some changes, delivering some impacts over the OEMs, including the oil price increase and the slowdown of the car output and the sales revenue. So at the same time, we have also seen great opportunities coming from those small cars and small engine cars, in addition to the new energy cars that will hopefully drive forward the growth of the domestic automotive sector and also the logistic industry. For the manufacturers or the makers, we have the following few demands. First of all, get integrated with the deep integration with more interfaces. Secondly, more user data, more behavioral figures to help to improve the quality of the new products. Thirdly, how to apply those technologies into the cars for onboard mobile services. Fourthly, the car quality control and monitoring, the tailor-made services for the owners and also for the personalization of the cars, together with O2O services based upon the online interactive community. This is what Careland is all about. I think for the express or the courier industry, the threshold is getting much higher. So those poorly serving companies will be weeded out sooner or later. But for the expressway zero LTD industry, the degree of integration will be even higher. And also for the this sector, on one hand, we have to ensure reasonable and decent profit. On the other side, they are making their active entry into those high profit-driven economic service or economic commerce industry. For us, actually, the general background is that the whole industry is not that prosperous as it used to be. So the capital is attracting the utmost attention with interactive integration of all industries and the mutual penetration of all subsectors. For Careland, facing all these challenges and problems, we provide due services and products to help those companies to save cost and to improve their working efficiencies before they can fulfill the transfer to a new era. Careland's product is called K-Go. So just remember K-Go, which is our hallmark product name. So we provide a K-Go-based Internet of Car services covering both safety, transportation, and working for all passenger services and commercial services. So these are some of the service items we provide for our users, including dynamic control of on monitoring of transportation, remote monitoring control, big data services, and also the user's operation. As I said, we provide information and data in three main areas. One is safety, security. The other is transportation. The third one is job allocation. So that will echo back to different type of scenarios we can normally think of, like the private eye, the different route sections monitoring, the dynamic speed control and checking and tracing, the regional speed limit, the temperature control and the testing, together with the tire pressure and oil consumption testing, and so on and so forth. So they are really specific items of our services, and these are some of the starting points of our services and our products. So I want to skip some of the detailed descriptions of those different items which are highly related with each other. But for the logistics companies, since last year we launched the first navigation map for cargo containers and cargo freighters. In other words, we collect all information relevant to trucks and for cargo forwarders so that they can serve those truck drivers in general in China. They will understand where the gas station will be, where the service station will be located. So that will be relevant, highly relevant to their job. So these people become the target consumers for our services. And based upon that interface, we formed a new platform called the Smart Logistic Map Service Platform for the purpose of forging an integrated smart logistics solution. So this is how this solution looks like, covering both PC, mobile phones, smart terminals, and different type of service providers. And these are some of the keywords of our system, like high efficiency, easy to operate, easy to communicate, time saving, and money saving. These are some of the snapshots of our systems addressing the needs of the car drivers. As I mentioned, these are the cargo drivers map, POI for cargo freighters, special routes for trucks. And also we have a special way of designing the routes according to their specific needs, in addition to the real-time road condition dynamic navigations. So before you reach a certain area, we will provide really professional warnings or suggestions for you. And also we have some multi-point planning for the freight forwarding bills or the workloads. Other functions may include electronic fencing, safety labeling, and recommended routing services. So this is what they call APP, specially devised for the truck drivers. So currently you can have access to this not only on the Android system platform, but also on iPhone and iOS system. We have a special truck routes, special parameters, special POIs, and you can have an easy way of checking where the cargo has been. You can easily upload or download the information according to your own needs. And also all the information will be available on the second edition of the APP. So this is what our Careland is all about.
And these are some of the services we provide and products we provide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Again, another interesting presentation to hear about how GPS technology can make a big difference to automotive logistics. You can see I'm a leader in technology myself. I have to come onto the stage. I had to bring my iPad and my iPhone because I'm such a technology person, and yet all of my notes are actually written on pieces of paper. So maybe I'm not quite ready for the new innovations of the automotive industry. So we had different versions there. We had a vision of the factory of the future, the plants of the future from General Motors. We had about hardware technology in finished vehicle logistics or in marine world, some technology innovations and measurements and ideas that can make those more efficient. And of course, in the last presentation there, about the potential of using GPS for logistics. So again, this is your time to make any comments or to ask any questions. The usual rules apply. If you have a comment or a question, if you can raise your hand, wait for the microphone so we can get the translation as well, and then you can ask your question. So I don't know if anyone has anything to start off with. Otherwise, a question from my side really was, we heard a couple of times about referring to other industries. So I didn't know if there were any thoughts on how automotive is compared to other industries, how progressive we are in bringing in new technology and ideas, and if there's anything that you've seen, whether it's from automotive being transferred to other industries, or whether it's something that you're seeing in other industries that should be brought and considered by automotive. So that's all of the panel, but perhaps I'll start with Ruud on this one.
Thank you, Louis. In the last months, I noticed there was an interesting innovation. I gave that example as well in the presentation. It had to do with racks, and especially in the retail world, they have challenges to get full trucks, and so there was a problem with too many half-empty trucks, and someone was looking around for a solution, couldn't find a solution in the world, and he created his own rack to solve the problem. And they started in the retail world, and they found trips from, let's say, distribution centers to supermarkets where they needed 5 trucks a day, and they had the potential to reduce that to 3 trucks a day. But they also noticed in the automotive there's a lot of interest because there are many milk runs in the automotive or many just-in-time deliveries, and also there you have sometimes 6-7 trucks a day going to a factory, and they already found examples that they could reduce, let's say, the 7 trucks a day, bringing that back to maybe 5 or 4 trucks a day, especially there where you have difficulties with stackable goods. You could do better and fill the truckload much better. So I think still a big opportunity, even if in whole full trucks, to learn from other industries, and this is maybe one example.
Mr. Xu, have you benchmarked with other industries to see what you could learn for the automotive industry?
这个其他，我们现在正不断地从其他行业当中在学习。
Indeed, we are learning from other industries. For example, Uber, Didi, which is the Chinese version of Uber. Eventually, one day in the future, the internet companies will overwhelm or revolutionize the automobile industries. Our editors asked, is there a possibility that automobile industry and automobile logistic industries will affect other industries? I've heard one thing. I'm not sure whether it's a fact or not. I understand that some of the OEMs are using Uber for automobile logistics. Probably in the next 5 to 10 years, these automated driving and unmanned driving technologies will be realized and matured. So when these technologies matured, it will revolutionize the automobile logistic industries. We will thinking about how to ensure the connectivities between different vehicles, and by then we can allow the vehicles to do something else. For example, we can push the cars into some rescue missions, transportation of some emergency materials. Well, this is something that is going to happen in the future. I don't know if I've answered the question or not.
Thank you. Any more questions from the audience? Perhaps for Mr. Feng from Careland, you came from Google. You said originally looking at, I presume the GPS side. What made you then look at the logistics industry as a potential target or a beneficiary of your services on the GPS side?
I used to be working with Google for many years. I used to do the map products on the mobile phone side. So for any users, the primary interest is where you are actually on Earth. And mobile phone map products are developing very rapidly. Indeed, the whole industry showed considerable amount of interest in this mapping product. The three big internet companies, the BAT, are investing heavily into the development of mobile phone-based maps. Not many years ago, we used the maps on the vehicle. Many people would spend a lot of money to install the screen and navigation systems on the vehicle. But during a recent couple of years, we've seen another trend as a result of the infiltration and popularization of the smartphones. A lot of users would love to download a map on their mobile phone instead of on the vehicles. So a lot of users are shifting from cars to mobile phone. Right now we are detecting a new trend. The cars are becoming more and more connected. Once you start the engine of the vehicles, the car-mounted screen will be light up, and the screen on the vehicle is larger than your mobile phone screen. So the users are coming back to their vehicles for navigation system or for navigation information. So I think there will be a lot of commercial opportunities to explore on this car-mounted screen. So that's why during recent couple of years there is a lot of hot money around the car-based internet or car connectivity. We came from the cars to mobile phones, and now we're coming back to cars. So this is where the opportunity is. Thank you.
Any questions? No? Okay, our time's up anyway. So I just want to thank our panel for another interesting session, looking a little bit forward at how the automotive industry and automotive logistics industry might change. Thank you. We're moving that a little bit even more forward in session 4 on China Manufacturing 4.0. So please join us for that session that starts at 4 o'clock. But please enjoy your coffee break and refreshments. Thank you.